Higgins area. Driving back, a Bigfoot runs across the road, and she said, "Look, Daddy, Bigfoot." As if it was the most, common thing in the world, because she had seen the pictures, read, picture books and whatnot. Very common. I would run into Robert Alley about twice a year. Every time I was running, I'm in the tourism business, and I had, a business doing pretty well. He was kind of envious. He says, "I've got to start a Bigfoot tour." And so I finally, one year, I nailed him. I said, "Okay, we're meeting at the Green Bean Coffee Company. We're going to sit down, we're going to talk this through, and we're going to start a Bigfoot tour in Ketchikan." Found a perfect site, and we walked the site, had it all planned out. He was going to buy a van. I was going to help with getting contracts with cruise lines, dum-da-dum-da-dum. Then he came up with the excuse of, "My bad leg will not allow me to hike that route that we had picked up." He was out of it. 2 years later, Marcus Martin approached me about getting into the tourism business, and he wanted to do some sort of boat tour because he had been working on boats for 6 or 8 years. I said, "Not a good idea. They're expensive. They're a hole in the water." I gave him the Bigfoot trail idea, and he took that like a hungry catfish on a big hunk of bait. It was like, "Yeah, that's a good idea." And so that was how many years ago?
5 years ago.
5 years ago. He's got a notebook there with dates written into it when we started. Took us over a year to get all the permits and agreements and whatnot. And then for the next 3.5, 4 years, building the trail, which is going to have its grand opening this Saturday morning. So if you saw the poster with Bigfoot and you got your smartphone out and you took a picture of the things that are going on, this is the first thing that's going on. Well, let's see, we were on the radio station, and I had a book signing at the Green Bean, so I guess this is the third thing going on. Now, I've walked from the Green Bean up to the trailhead of Marcus's project 120 times. So my Bigfoot experience is, one of those times, I walked into a brick wall of stench. And if you read the native accounts, and a lot of accounts since early natives accounts, you will know that stench sometimes accompanies a Bigfoot sighting or a Bigfoot encounter. I did not see him, I did not hear him, I smelled him, maybe heard. When I was 12 years old, I shot a skunk with a shotgun from here to the door. Mistake. The wind was blowing in my direction. When I was 10 years old, I found an egg that should have hatched in May. It was August. Picked it up, threw it against the barn door. That was a mistake. When I moved to Ketchikan, I was going to church at the Methodist Church. We had a picnic 10 miles out of town, Ward Lake. I volunteered to take the homeless lady. She hadn't showered for 30 days, and she had bladder control issues. And that was a mistake. So the stench was a combination of all three of those. I'm almost 74. I'd never smelled it before, never smelled it since. And after walking about a block up the trail, it was gone. I worked on the trail for a couple hours, walked back, nothing. What was it? So, right now we're going to open it up for anyone else who would like to take 2 to 5 minutes to tell about their Bigfoot encounter. Dave, would you be first?
I didn't.
No.
I haven't seen one.
Have you heard one or smelled one? No. An encounter, can happen lots of different ways. I'm breaking the ice, guys. I told my story. Now, if nobody here has a story, we've got a guy here who can talk for 20 hours. So I'm going to turn the microphone over to Dr. Matthew Johnson, I guess.
Okay. Except my mama always told me I had a big mouth. So I don't need that mic. All right. You guys hear me? Yeah? Okay. Well, Cynthia and I flew into Ketchikan this morning, and we got in the van with Rob. Mistake. Never smelled any, just kidding. No. Rob's been great. It's been a good day here in Ketchikan. Had fun on the radio this morning. Wasn't he good? He was good. You guys hear the radio program this morning?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay, good radio show. And then we had the book signing, and now we have tonight. So we're just going to get going with an introduction. I should probably turn this on so it will advance. That would be a good idea. So welcome to Bigfoot University, presented by yours truly, Dr. Matthew Johnson. I'm a psychologist, an author, a speaker, an instructor, and founder of Xanuu.com. Xanuu.com. Xanue.com. I was raised in Salem, Oregon, and I moved to Anchorage, Alaska in 1980. Moved to Anchorage, Alaska in 1980. Yep, 1980. To play basketball at the University of Alaska. I played from 80 to 84, scored my first 2 collegiate points on ESPN TV against James Worthy. Got to play against Michael Jordan, Perkins, Ewing, Elijah Wan, Drexler, got half my picture in Sports Illustrated magazine. My silly teammate was in the way of the other half. That was all many pounds ago. Okay, many pounds ago. So I graduated from the University of Alaska, with a bachelor's degree in social work, and then I obtained my master's degree in social work from Rutgers University in New Jersey. While I was there, I was still in shape, playing a lot of pickup basketball with a local group of elite players. When we were done, yours truly had been drilling the three-point shots all night long. I was switching my shoes out on the bench. This guy walks over, sits down, and says, "Hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm an assistant coach for the New Jersey Nets in the NBA. We want you to try out for our team." I said, "Thanks, but no thanks." "Why not?" "Because you guys suck." You do. You're the worst team in the NBA. You won maybe 15 games this year. And truth be told, I'd be the bench warmer for the worst team in the NBA, not interested. And I have been accepted into a Doctor of Psychology program out west. That's where my future, my passion, my heart, my calling happened to be, so that's where I went. I got my second master's degree in psychology and then my doctorate degree in psychology from George Fox University, which is in Newberg, Oregon, kind of halfway between Portland and the Oregon coast. As I already shared, I was a 20-year resident of Alaska, hiking, camping, fishing, hunting. I was even chased by a grizzly bear when I was fishing. That was fun. And then we moved to Oregon. By this time, we had popped out 3 kids. The last 5 years in Alaska, we were living in Fairbanks. When I moved from Anchorage to Fairbanks, everybody there was saying, "Welcome to the real Alaska." You know, there you're shopping at Fred Meyer and your car's running and it's plugged in and it's 40 below zero. Okay? So then you take your kids out trick-or-treating and they're wearing snow bunny suits with a mask. And they're in your car, you drive them to their next house, they run to their door, get the candy, hop back in the heated car, go to the next house. I didn't want to raise my kids that way. So we moved to Southern Oregon and we went hiking. 6 months later, July 1st, 2000, we went on a tour of the Oregon Caves National Monument. And then after we were done, we went hiking on the Big Tree Loop Trail. And about a mile up the mountain, we were walking through a stench, similar to what Rob was describing. And we all smelled it, we all talked about it, we kept going. Then a little farther, we were walking up the trail and, you know, thick trees and brush, you can't really see into it. And we're hearing a whoa, 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 deep bass guttural. And we're going, what is that? Now we're not scared, right? We're in Southern Oregon. There's no grizzly bear. We don't have anything to be afraid of. That's not a cougar. We're fine. We keep walking. Now yours truly has to do my business. Okay, Mother Nature's knocking on my door. Okay, so the 3 little kids are playing with the bug with a stick on the path. My wife is watching them. I hike up through the brush and the trees to go do my business. When I'm putting everything back together, I'm looking down the slope. I'm watching my wife, the 3 kids, but beyond them down the slope, and their backs are to them, I see Bigfoot walk off the pages of myth and legend into reality. That was a campfire story. You know, you grew up in Oregon, it's myth and legend, but no, it's real. I literally felt my brain, my cognitive schema collapse inside my head, and I felt my brain reboot. And I immediately had this strong instinct to protect my wife and kids. I don't know how I was going to do it. You know, I'm almost 7 feet tall, 330 pounds, and what I was looking at was more like 10, 11 feet tall and probably 1,000 pounds. But I ran down through the brush and trees, hit the trail, went up to my wife and kids, let's go, let's move along, let's go. And they're, you know, this isn't my normal behavior, and they're looking at me like, and I go, go now. And they're like, okay. So I move them up the trail about 100 yards, we go around the corner, about another 100 yards, sit the kids down on a log, pull my wife aside. You're not going to believe what I saw. She said, what? I said, I saw a Bigfoot. She said, I believe you. She smelled it, she heard it, she knew I wouldn't lie. So we came up with a strategy to get ourselves off that mountain. We got off the mountain, made a report to the park headquarters, because if we had seen a cougar up there, if we had seen a black bear up there, if we had seen any other animal up there that could potentially be a danger to other hikers in the park system, we're going to ethically do the right thing and report the animal. So I made a report to Ranger Beverly Turner. She's like a little 5-foot thing. She's in her little park ranger outfit. And I get to the part where I'm telling the story where I saw it, and she thought I was going to tell her I saw a dead body. And I tell her I saw a Bigfoot, and I expected to, you know, see the eyes roll and what an idiot, right? No, she goes, Dr. Johnson, we're discovering new species on this planet every day. If we think we have discovered everything and we know everything that exists on our planet, then we're practicing ignorance. I believe you. The next day, the news shot around the world. It was in all major news outlets. And there was my life. I worked hard to get through 10 years of college, 4 degrees, to have a private practice as a psychologist. And now it could get flushed down the toilet because everybody knows. 2 days later, and actually the next day, Ranger John Roth calls and says, I want you to bring your family out and I want you to walk us through what happened and where everything happened. And I said, I'm not bringing my family out there. And he said, no, we need you to bring them out. I said, I'm not bringing them out. I'm not doing it. I'm not putting them in that danger again. And he said, Dr. Johnson, you've been in Alaska, you've been around animals, groups of people, you know, most animals aren't going to approach groups of people. You're going to be fine. Let me give you a phone number of this guy who's with the BFRO, the Bigfoot Field Research Organization. You call them up. They're going to be with us. So I called him up, and he assured me we'd be okay, my family would be okay. And he told me that he'd be carrying a sidearm, but don't tell the rangers because it's illegal to carry a gun in the park. And I said, okay, I'll go. I'll bring my family. If you're going to have a gun, I'll go. And I won't tell the rangers. So we went out there, showed them this is where we smelled it, this is where we heard it, this is where I went up off the path and did my thing. Come up here and check it out. Oh, we believe you, Dr. Johnson. No, get up here. I want you to look at the poo on the ground, the toilet paper. I want you to know I'm telling the 100% truth about everything. Get up here and look at, okay, they verified it. Then he went down the trail, down the slope, checked out the area for about 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Came back up and said something very large went through this area in the last 24, 48 hours. I found a track on the trail. Everybody come down, I want to show it to you. There was this track on the trail. Keep in mind, I have a size 16 shoe, 14.5 inches. That thing was about 1.5 times the size of my shoe. Toes. And he squatted down on the ground. He's outlining the track and the toes with his finger, and he says, "This is not a bear." And he says, "I need to let you guys know that the park has a policy where we will not take an official position with the media about the existence of the Bigfoot species within our park boundaries." What? Did you just hear what this guy said? They have a policy. You don't have a policy unless a bunch of people sit in a room around a big long table talking with each other, creating a policy. And you don't sit around a big long table in a room creating a policy unless you have a reason to create a policy. Well, within the next month, emails and phone calls, I was contacted by at least 30 plus people who worked in the park, who hiked in the park, who camped near the park, who mined near the park, who hunted near the park. And these stories were spanning 30 plus years of encounters in the park area. We have a policy that we will not take a position, public position, about the existence of the Bigfoot species within our park boundaries. No wonder Beverly Turner was so accepting of my report. Well, having grown up in the woods in Oregon, having lived in Alaska for 20 years, being out in the wilderness, doing everything that everybody else does out in the wilderness in Alaska, I had a choice. I was going to let that scare me away from the woods and never go back again, or I was going to do something about it. By the way, that's a bear. That's not a bear. I wanted to smack people upside the head who said, "Oh, he saw a bear." I grew up in the woods in Oregon. I spent 20 years in Alaska. I was chased by a freaking grizzly bear, and you're going to insult my intelligence by saying I saw a bear. Give me a freaking break. News shot around the world. I was on 15 TV shows. Animal X, Stephen Fry's tour around America. Got to sip on a bottle of wine with Stephen Fry around a campfire up in the mountains talking Bigfoot. That was fun. 300 plus radio programs, coast to coast AM 3 times, other radio shows, USA Today, front page. Was interviewed by Joe Rogan 9 years ago. Mr. Fear Factor. He's a little guy. And he wasn't so brave. I invited him and his crew to come up and spend 3 nights with me up in the mountains in my research area. And he was very clear, I don't want to be around Bigfoot. I don't want to do anything with Bigfoot. I just want to do this interview, that's all. So Mr. Fear Factor had some fear issues. Know a lot of the people in the Finding Bigfoot show. And by the way, after I graduated with a doctorate degree, I wrote a parenting book, Positive Parenting with a Plan, and I spoke in 80 cities a year for 12 years. all 50 states several times, most of Canada, and I spoke at the World Family Therapy Conference in Europe, training counselors from around the world. If you have any kids at home or you plan on popping out some kids, you want to get your hands on this book.
I just finished reading that book. It's a real asset. Parents or grandparents.
Are you a Bigfoot skeptic? Skepticism. If we can doubt it, then it probably isn't true. You know, like that, their mind's already made up. We can doubt it, it's not true. Okay? Anyone who doesn't believe in the existence of Bigfoot needs to have their head examined by Dr. Matthew Johnson, Abraham Lincoln. This is where you laugh, you know. Okay, right. Abraham Lincoln meme jokes. Okay. So, welcome to Bigfoot University. We have 3 levels of education. We have our undergraduate level. We have our master's degree level. And then we have our doctorate degree level. Do we have a time frame here, Rob? Or are we getting kicked out of this building by a certain time?
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock? Okay.
So we cannot do the doctorate tonight.
You don't want to do the doctorate tonight? No. Okay. So we're going to do the undergraduate and the master's level tonight, and we'll do the doctorate level.
At least half of the master's, at least.
You just said 9. That's 2.5 hours from now. Right?
You have to read the room, Doc.
I have to read, I'll read the room. Okay, hold on. Well, let me tell you this. Reading the room, I guarantee you by the time I'm done, they're going to want more. Every time I speak, you guys are going to want more. You may be thinking, oh, this old fart's presenting on Bigfoot. I guarantee you by the time I'm done, you're going to want more. How many of you watch Finding Bigfoot on TV? How many of you watch Expedition Bigfoot on TV? How many of you watch any other Bigfoot shows on TV? How many of you have a TV? Well, that's a start. We have a TV here. What you think you know about the Bigfoot species is wrong. What you think you know about the Bigfoot species is wrong. What they teach on Finding Bigfoot and Expedition Bigfoot is wrong. What they show you on Finding Bigfoot is how not to find Bigfoot. Everything they do on that TV show is how not to find Bigfoot.
That's a fact.
Okay? By the time I'm done here tonight, let me ask you this question. How many of you been inside a movie theater before? Raise your hand. Yay, there we go. I'm watching the audience, Rob. How many of you saw The Kingsman, the first movie that came out? You remember the end of the movie with the music playing and the heads exploding? That's this room tonight. That's this room tonight. Heads exploded. Okay? Here we go. Undergraduate education. We're going to start off with the old school approach. Okay? Bigfoot is a worldwide phenomenon. Okay? Kushtaka? Kushtaka. Okay, Kushtaka, a local name for the Bigfoot species. How many of you know that the North American Indians have over 100 names for the Bigfoot species?
I've heard that.
North America, not Ketchikan, not Southeast Alaska. North America has over 100 names for the Bigfoot species. Now, ask yourself this. What would all these Indian tribes who don't have the internet, phones, texting, emails, the telegraph, all be talking about the same species and coming up with names for them? Why? Oh, I don't know. maybe because they exist. So they've been seen around the world. The old school approach or theoretical orientation is that they're descendants of Gigantopithecus, which is Latin for giant mountain ape, and they found a fossil record allegedly for it in the cave in China, and they believe that it migrated over the Bering Sea land bridge with everyone else. What they don't tell you is the fossil record in China is a tooth and a little bit of a jawbone. They don't have some big Gigantopithecus skeleton in a Chinese cave that they're basing this on. They're basing it on a tooth and a partial jawbone. So today they think that the Bigfoot species in North America is a dumb giant mountain ape, a descendant of Gigantopithecus. And even though it's a dumb giant mountain ape, apparently it's smart enough to avoid capture and to avoid us, you know, saying, here he is. So, over 100 names. We have history in North America about them. Bigfoot in Alaska. I didn't know this until after I moved to Southern Oregon and my family had a Bigfoot encounter, that there are Bigfoot reports in Alaska. I didn't know that. I had no idea.
There was one in Ketchikan, the fisherman came across it.
I'm aware of that story, and I'm about to reference that story. Actually, there's lots of stories in Ketchikan. But the point is, they're even spotted as far north as Fairbanks and over here on the northwest coast of Alaska. Okay? In Ketchikan in 2000, there was a group of friends who were fishing. They were returning in their boat, and they were kind of off the coastline, and they saw somebody walking on the beach away from town, right, going toward the bears, right? And they thought, this person must be disoriented, right? The temperatures are dropping, the sun's going down, we need to take our boat over there, and we need to see if we can help this guy. So they get closer and closer and closer to the shore, and then all of a sudden somebody says, is that hair? And then everybody in the boat saw this Bigfoot disappear, vanish. And then in the same spot, an otter appeared, and the otter kept walking in the same direction on the beach, and then hung a right and went into the woods. Hence, you know, the shape-shifting otter man. Okay? Then, so the Kushtaka is believed to have some possible paranormal abilities. Then in 2011, a 19-year-old male, and this was 11 years ago, so he's 30 now, lived in the Bear Valley Apartments and saw a Bigfoot in northern Ketchikan rummaging through the garbage, and walked away up the hillside near the end of Yorktown Street. Lots of stories in this area, lots of stories in British Columbia. The Oregonian had a story of some miners being attacked in their cabin at night after one of the miners shot one sitting up on the ridge. And they were attacked all night. And so that story made it front page of the Oregonian in 1924, 98 years ago. And at that time, they interviewed some elders from the tribe in the area. And the elders talked about similar abilities that are reported about the Kushtaka, about being able to read minds and cloak and do other paranormal stuff and throw their voices, etc. Which I thought was really interesting, because those kind of reports are worldwide. Even President Teddy Roosevelt, before he became president, wrote 2 books about the wilderness and his adventures in the wilderness. And one of his books included a Bigfoot encounter. President Theodore Roosevelt wrote a book which included a Bigfoot encounter. So I did the old school researcher for the first 10 years. I found lots of tracks. I used high-tech equipment. I used game trail cams. I used night vision equipment, thermal imaging equipment. We blasted out sounds. We did everything old schoolers do. And I did it for 10 years. I had a whole bunch of foot casts that I collected over 10 years, some scat piles I collected over 10 years. We would wah in the woods like they do on Finding Bigfoot. Occasionally we would get a back. We would whack a tree with a stick. Occasionally we'd get a whack back. But that was it, 10 years. That's it. That's not why I was going out into the woods. I wasn't going out to the woods to collect all the foot casts I could, scat piles, and get a screen back. I wanted personal interaction. I'm a psychologist. I've been doing this mental health thing for 40 years. Who in this room is younger than 40 years old? Raise your hand. Oh. Yeah. I've been doing mental health work longer than most of you have been alive, with the exception of these old codgers over here. And I'm a problem solver. That's my job. So I decided, okay, I gave old school 10 years. The old school approach, 10 years. I'm going to change things up. I'm going to do the Dr. Jane Goodall chimp lady habituation approach. Okay? So, we cast the tracks, we had fun. But I'm going to do, now we're at the master's degree. Okay? You all have just gotten your undergraduate degree at Bigfoot University. Yay. Good job. Swing those tassels over to the other side. Now we're going after the master's degree. So I decided to do the Dr. Jane Goodall, chimp lady, Bigfoot, and Bigfoot believer, I might add, habituation approach. Nope. Back up. My speaker turned off because it timed out. Okay, let's do this again. Nope. Let's go back one more time.
About something that some would say is fictional, but you would say, hold up, we don't know for certain, and that's Bigfoot.
Everybody talks to me about I'm romantic. I would like Bigfoot to exist. I've met people who swear they've seen Bigfoot. And I think the interesting thing is every single continent, there is an equivalent of Bigfoot or Sasquatch. There's the Yeti, there's the Yari in Australia, there's the Chinese wild man, and on and on and on. And, I've had stories from people who, you have to believe them. So there's something, I don't know what it is. I'm always open-minded.
Okay, so even Dr. Jane Goodall, the chimp lady, the habituator, is a believer in Bigfoot. Got to be open-minded. It's important as a biologist to be open-minded. Now, so I started the Southern Oregon habituation area. I was turned on to this spot in 2007, 15 years ago, by a friend. And I started working this area. And for the first little while, I was throwing the food on the ground, baiting Bigfoot, and then I realized I can't keep doing that. I need to stop treating them like a dumb giant mountain ape, like a dumb animal. Old habits die hard. And so I started perceiving them as a people. The North American Indians around the entire continent viewed them as a people. Okay, so I started wearing surgical gloves, cleaning out these big stainless steel dog food bowls, putting the food in these bowls and putting these bowls out 150 feet away from the base camp, which was the dead-end cul-de-sac of a logging road up in the mountains in southern Oregon, so they could hit the gifting bowls without us seeing them, so they could have privacy. So I put them out at sunset, and then I picked them up immediately at sunrise. And I would always take, when we put the gifting bowls out, I would take a before picture, and when we picked them up in the morning at sunrise, we would take an after picture. So before they're hit, after they're hit. And when we were walking down 150 feet to deliver the bowls, we would always walk out singing, "Row, row, row your boat." Simple tune. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Okay, so then I would whistle it, we'd deliver it, take the picture, and leave, go back to base camp. I gave up all the technology, no thermal imaging, no trail cams, because the trail cams were pushing them away from the food. And I love it when people go, "Why don't you have the cam on the food?" Because I put a cam on the food. It didn't work. But when you turn the cam off, they hit the food. But when you turn the cam on, they didn't hit the food. But when you turn the cam off, they hit the food. But when you turn the cam on, they didn't hit the food. I tried it. Good question, but I tried it. You're assuming I didn't try it. Give me a break. So I stopped the technology, with the exception of passive technology, using the parabolic microphone dish in the base camp that can pick up audio sound from 100 yards away, a football field away. Okay, I use the passive technology. And we would pick the bulls up at sunrise with surgical gloves on. Okay, put them out with surgical gloves, pick them up with surgical gloves. And, it was up a long drive at the end of a dead-end cul-de-sac, as I pointed out. We left the gifting bowls out. There's us putting the gifting bowls together, the food together. And we put plates out before we started using the bowls. And you'll notice bananas, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, corn on the cob. Bananas are still there the next morning. Corn on the cob's there, but the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches are gone. I'll talk about that in just a minute. There's another bowl where they took everything, including the jar of peanut butter. And they love peanut butter. It took me a few years to figure out that they didn't want fruit, they didn't want vegetables, they didn't want meat. They can get fruit, meat, and vegetables in their natural environment. They wanted bread products. They wanted bread products. They could not get bread products in their natural environment. And this particular family group wanted peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And they wanted creamy peanut butter, not crunchy peanut butter. And they wanted raspberry jam, not any other kind of jam. And they wanted wheat bread, not white bread or sourdough bread. They were very particular. Now I want you to think that one through. How many times did I have to put bowls out to figure that out? I invested a lot of time and money to do that. They love Cinnabon rolls. You're going to hear that in a bit.
Lots of jars of peanut butter.
Okay. We had a young one that would come into camp sometimes when we were out hiking. Cynthia, my wife back there, filming this right now. We went out hiking away from camp. We came back, and there were over 20 pine cones in the straight line on the path when we came back that weren't there on our way out. And then at the end of that straight line of pine cones was this glyph with sticks and pine cones. That wasn't there on the way out. A geometric design, i.e. intelligence, not dumb giant mountain apes. They're a people. They're a people, not a dumb giant mountain ape. They would occasionally put handprints on the vehicles. My hand can palm a basketball. The hand on the back of the Suburban was much bigger than my hand. Okay? We also found handprints on my wife's Subaru, and we lifted the handprint and the fingerprints off the windows. My wife works for a large law enforcement agency in the state of Washington. She took these fingerprints and handprints to the fingerprint expert who looked it over, and he was like a kid in a candy store. His fun was to go to the zoo in Seattle and lift prints from the primates and study the prints from primates. He looked at the handprints and the fingerprints and he said, those aren't human. And he says, those aren't from any primate I ever took prints from in the zoo in Seattle. Where'd you get these? My wife explained to him, and he goes, before she could say anything else, Bigfoot. They love to leave tree markers. Okay? They will bend trees and leave markers out in the forest. You wouldn't believe how many people work in the forest, hunt in the forest, hike in the forest, camp in the forest, who walk right by these things and don't even notice them. Or they think they're all natural. Okay? Found lots of tracks out there. There's a family of 5 in our research area. Dad on the left, mom, teenager, a child, and a toddler. Those were all found on the same day. My dog was going to point behind me, a little toy fox terrier. The dog is standing on the path behind where this picture is, looking in this direction to right here. I took a selfie, a friend of mine blew the selfie up, and this is what you got. They're a people. They're not dumb giant mountain apes. Everything you've been taught about Bigfoot is wrong. You are now working on your master's degree. I had a bunch of college students come out to my research area. They were in a film class. They wanted to film a project about Bigfoot. So they brought out their drones, and we took them out, and they said, where should we fly our drones? I said, I know a spot in this research area that they don't want us to go anywhere near. Matter of fact, my wife and I tried to go to that spot, and we got politely cut off and pushed back. Let's have you fly your drones over that spot. They're like, cool, let's do it, right? So up goes the first drone, fully charged, and flying over the area, and all of a sudden it's flying back automatically. Within 45 seconds and landing at our feet, they check it out, the battery's drained dead. They're like, what the heck? So they get another battery out, fully charged. Yeah, it's fully charged. Stick it in. And dead. One more time. Third battery. Boom, dead. They're not dumb giant mountain apes. What you've been taught about Bigfoot is wrong. That blew these guys away. They have flown drones forever. They had never seen that ever happen once, let alone 3 times. while we were there, I told you that I abandoned all aggressive technology. All aggressive technology. Trail cams, thermal imaging, night vision equipment, all up in their face technology. And I resorted to passive technology, a parabolic microphone dish sitting on top of the Suburban in the base camp that can record audio up to a football field away. I would record all night while we're sleeping. By the way, while we're sleeping on cots out in the open under the stars. We're not sleeping in tents. We're not sleeping in vehicles. We're out in the open on cots under the stars so they can walk up to you at night when you're in your cot and touch you and interact with you. They're gentle, kind, loving, caring people. They are not dumb giant mountain apes. Well, I've heard they can be aggressive. Well, I'm not done talking, and we're not at the doctorate level yet, are we? So, here are some recordings that I obtained in the Southern Oregon habituation area with the passive technology. Okay, so the context is it's morning. My little 4-year-old boy has to go potty. He wakes me up, whispers in my ear, "Daddy, I have to go potty." Okay, go ahead and go. The sunlight's up. The porta potty's out there. Go ahead and go. So he unzips his tent. He goes out. He comes back in about 30 seconds later, whispers in my ear, "Daddy, I'm sorry, I can't lift the water jug for the porta potty." It's a 5-gallon water jug. You know, silly me, half asleep, half awake. The little 4-year-old's not going to lift a 5-gallon water jug for the porta potty. "I'm sorry, son. Let me get my shoes on. I'll come outside and I'll do that for you." So I was recording all night long. When he went out the tent the first time, we were being watched on the perimeter, and the adolescent male whispers, "Aga Y8." He comes back in the tent, he goes back out a second time, he whispers again, "Aga Y8." I have a friend who grew up in the Klamath Indian tribe. She said that word is similar to their word for urination. In November of 2013, Johnny Manson, a friend of mine, and I are up, actually December of 2013, we're up in this area. It's 20 degrees outside. We sleep out in the open on our cots. We wake up with ice on our facial hair, in our clothes, and it's hanging down from the trees, icicles. Well, that night, before we went to bed, I asked Chatty Cathy, the young juvenile female who talks, "What's your name? Can you tell us your name?" So we go to bed, we're sleeping. So you're going to hear us sleeping and breathing heavy while we're sleeping. And then Chatty Cathy comes up to the end or the foot of Johnny Manson's cot and says her name, Nipkia. that same morning, we're awake, we go out and we retrieve the gifting bowls. We're freezing cold. And you know how your hands get so cold, you can barely grab anything, and I'm trying to dig into my pocket to pull out the keys so I can open up the Suburban, get inside, start the engine, and warm ourselves up so we don't die from hypothermia. So Johnny Manson and I get inside the Suburban. It's running, it's idling, the parabolic microphone dish is still on top, it's still recording, and while we're inside the Suburban, Seska, the name for the adolescent male, starts yelling my name. Matt, Matt, Matt. They're not dumb giant mountain apes. They're people. Everything you've been taught about Bigfoot is wrong. How did he know my name was Matt? Because every time I went out there at night, I would stand in the middle of the cul-de-sac, and we had a no lights policy. No campfires, no lanterns, no flashlights, no light. We're in the pitch dark. And I would walk up, and we were in the fishbowl in this cul-de-sac. We had vegetation around the entire cul-de-sac. So we're the fish in the bowl. And they come up to the brush and the trees. And they can get close to us and watch us. And I would go up, like about this close, here's the brush, and I know he's right on the other side of the bush. Actually, a lot of them. And I'm going, my name is Matt. Matt. My name is Matt. What's your name? And then I would have all my guests who would go out there with me do the same thing. My name is John. My name is Jill. Okay, we would introduce ourselves. That's how he knew my name. Now, the next audio is an older adult talking to his younger son. And I want you to listen to the cadence, the speed of the words that the adult father is using with his son. It's very, very fast. Their language varies. They communicate in a multiple different ways. And then his young son responds respectfully with the word hick. Now, I want you to keep in mind, 22 years. You add up all the years, all the days that I was out there with boots on the ground, spending the night, okay? Out of 22 years, a total of 4 years. I spent a total of 4 years out of 22 years with boots on the ground out there. Can you tell me somebody else who spent 4 years out there? I was serious about solving this mystery and connecting with this people. Okay? So in all my recordings, I was able to piece together that when they communicate with each other, the respectful response is hick. We go, uh-huh, sure, yeah. That's how we respond when somebody talks to us, okay. They say hick. So dad's cadence is fast and his son responds respectfully with the word hick. Okay, now, last but not least, this was awesome. This is June of 2014. I'm out there with some friends. We had some weird, crazy nights. I'll catch up with you about that a little later. But we're exhausted. We go out and we get the gifting bowls at sunrise with surgical gloves on. We bring them back in. We set them on the table in the base camp at the 12 o'clock position on the perimeter. I also have my parabolic microphone dish right here. And we bring the gifting bowls, we put them down, and then we, for ourselves, we had a box of Cinnabon rolls. 4 of them. There were 4 of us. We were tired. We climbed back into our sleeping bags to take a nap. We were going to sleep for another hour or 2, and then when we wake up, we're going to have the Cinnabon rolls for breakfast. We get up. We walk over to the table. The box is still there on the table. We open up the box. All 4 Cinnabon rolls are gone. Was that a squirrel? Was that a raccoon? Was that a bird? Were they going to open the box, take everything without leaving one crumb, any mess, no nuclear devastation of the food, and close the lid? Okay.
4-finger discount.
Yep, well, you know what? I had the parabolic microphone dish still recording. So I went home and I found when they hit the box. And they were happy. Just want you to listen to just how happy they were. I loop it. Oh, Dave Wayloo. That is Squatchanese for score. We got the Cinnabon rolls. They're not dumb giant mountain apes. We also, while we had this going on in Southern Oregon, my wife and I were living in South Hill in Puyallup, Washington, on the ridge line overlooking the Ording Valley. We had a forest on the east side of our property on the slope. My wife and I, we get back from Southern Oregon. We're in bed that night, 2nd floor, in our house in this hugely packed subdivision of homes. And we have our 2nd-story bedroom windows open to the forest behind our property. And what do we hear? Whoa! And she elbows me in bed, saying, "They're here too." You know? So we had tracks in the forest behind our house, more tracks in the forest behind our house. We went out for a hike on the trail. We came across this huge, freshly torn off branch on the trail. No windstorms, no snowstorms. It's in the summer. Okay, freshly torn off, huge. And my little toy fox terrier dog right here is pointing something out. If you want a good Bigfoot dog that points them out, get a toy fox terrier. They work for me every time. I've gone through a couple of them, and they're awesome, smart little dogs. But for some reason, they can hone in on them really well. So I start taking pictures. Oh, and they left us this asterisk here with these woven sticks. That means welcome, by the way. When you find this big old woven asterisk out in the woods, that means welcome. They're not dumb giant mountain apes, they're people. So I started taking pictures and zoomed in, and there's one peeking from behind the tree, and there's another one here with the shoulder and the head right there. So here's the one peeking from behind the tree. And here's a shoulder, a head, and a shoulder, and an arm. And he's looking at my little dog. We also got this female out in the woods during the winter. And the interesting thing about this shot, I was taking some pictures of my wife posing by this log covered with snow. I didn't see that. I zoomed in on the picture after the fact when we got back home and found this. How do you know she's female, Matt? Big hairy breast. There are 2 essential books that you might want to get your hands on. This is my first book, Bigfoot, The 50-Year Journey Come Full Circle. And this is book number 2, The Jean-Nu. This is your doctorate level education. This is your bachelor's and master's degree education. You cannot read this without reading this one first, because this one won't make any sense to you until you read this one first. Now, Bob was telling me to watch my audience. Doctorate degree, oops, any questions? Okay, in other words, I'm trying to read the room here, and you guys don't look interested at all to go up to the next level. Most of you look pretty content with tossing that tassel on your master's degree.
That looks like Harry and Henderson.
Well, that one is. That one is. I didn't take this picture out in the wild. So most of you are looking pretty content with taking that tassel with your master's degree and walking out the door and celebrating your graduation. Are we good to go? Wait. I'm talking to the young ones here, not the old codgers. I know you're interested. I'm supposed to watch my room. Do you want your doctorate degree, or do you want to go home with your master's degree?
Go for the doctorate.
What?
Keep going.
Keep going?
Yeah.
How about over here in the cheap seats? Do you guys want your doctorate degree, or are we done?
Us two are good. Stay.
I mean, you're all right, so we're staying too.
Okay, so before I proceed with the doctorate degree program, I am willing to pause right now to answer questions about your undergraduate diploma and your master's level diploma. If you ask any questions that are at the doctorate level, I'm going to ask you to bite your tongue, be patient, and wait. Somebody have a question? You had one, go ahead.
Yeah, and you've already kind of answered it. I've always felt that since more sightings are at night, and since more sightings seem to be at night, and as cars shine a Sasquatch, their eyes blow back at you. I've always assumed they were primarily nocturnal.
Okay. The Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Kushtaka, Yeti, Yowie, Huron, Oma, on and on and on and on, are out and about any time of the day. Now they do a lot of stuff at night because we're all in bed and they don't have to put up with us. But they're active during the day too, and there's plenty of daylight sightings as well, historically speaking. Next question. Yes?
You believe they could be paranormal? Because a lot of people report it's like seeing a light right before they see it, before they disappear.
If you ask a doctorate degree question, I'm going to ask you to wait until I get there. Right. That is a very good question. I'll get there. Yes?
I got a good one for you. What's the difference between the red eye and the yellow eye?
They can change the colors, the illumination of their eyes, and they have eye glow. If you take a flashlight and shine it in the eye of a coyote, a deer,
right,
they're gonna shine.
Get the eyes shine.
Eyes shine.
Yeah.
Now, they can be in the dark around our camp, and you can see silhouette figures, and you can see 2 glowing red eyes.
All right.
You can see 2 white eyes, 2 yellow eyes, 2 green eyes, without any light shining. There's no reflecting. It's eye shine, okay? It's eye shine, not eye, no, it's eye glow. It's It's I glow, not I shine. It's I glow.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I've heard stories about without the light reflecting in their eyes.
Yes, I glow.
They have, some of them have red eyes.
I glow.
And they are aggressive.
No. Hold on.
The ones with the red eye.
Hold on. We often associate bad, evil stuff with the color red. Like the guy sitting behind you, he is clearly evil. He is wearing a red shirt. Okay? Yeah, thank you. That scared me. Stop. Okay? I'm going to talk at the doctorate level about the difference between the Kushtaka, right? Kushtaka, or Bigfoot, Yeti, etc., and another species that looks like them but isn't them. Okay? Yes?
So, historically, even the natives talked about the stench.
Yeah.
But why is it only a certain percentage or a low percentage where stench is involved?
Okay, so I told you I've been doing this for 22 years. I told you I had 4 years of boots on the ground total. In 4 years of boots on the ground, I smelled that stench maybe 5 times out of 4 years. Okay, and when the stench comes from the guys, but what comes from the females is incredibly beautiful. What comes from the females is a floral scent. We were in the middle of winter with snow on the ground in camp doing a night sit in the pitch dark, and all of a sudden we had this aroma of what you would smell if you land in Hawaii and they put a lei of flowers around your neck and you have the flowers under your nose and that aroma comes up. That's what the females emit.
And some other people have had experiences with the females smelling like cinnamon or cloves. We've had mostly the floral, but other people said they get more of the spicy. So it's the males who can exude the stench.
And the males will exude the stench for a couple reasons. One, to intimidate you, to get you to leave. Okay, big mistake, right? Or, in the case of my being at camp, sometimes we would arrive and they would throw a pine cone or a rock in from behind the brush and the trees that would land at our feet to say hello, and then all of a sudden the odor would come in as kind of, hi, we're here. It wasn't to try to intimidate. Yes?
My question was about the stories. So,
yeah.
Like your experience in like research, like do you think it was like something to do, like they had like some technology or like something, or like why do you think like the drones and
Good doctorate level question. The semester has not begun yet. Yes.
So along those lines, like you said, you were politely pushed back. Like, what did you mean by that?
When we were trying to go to that area?
Yeah.
So my wife and I are hiking along a slope toward this area. You know, over a few years, we figured out that there was something very unique about this area that they kept kind of keeping us away from. So we decided we were going to take an aggressive, a friendly aggressive approach, right? Not going with guns blazing, but we were just going to hike over there and see what's over there. So we start moving along the hillside, the slope, and you can see down the slope, and you can see brush moving in our direction to cut us off, to flank us. Brush and trees moving aggressively to flank us on both sides, and we couldn't see a thing. We saw the brush moving, we saw the trees moving, we heard the footprints, boom, boom, footsteps, but we didn't see anything.
And it was a very, very, very steep slope. And
so yours truly said, we're sorry, we're turning around, we're going back, we're sorry, this won't happen again, we're sorry.
But
we turned around and went back.
The cool thing about that, though, is we didn't backtrack. We climbed pretty much straight out. So I'm on my toes and my hands getting out of there.
Going up the slope.
Going up the slope. And I didn't feel scared or like I was going to be hurt. It was just a polite, please don't do this. But as I was climbing out the hill, right between my hands, I found a footprint that was probably only 6-7 inches long, and barefoot, toes. You could see the toes splayed. You could see them in the dirt. No little kid had been going up that hillside. And it was just really cool. I just kind of stopped and said, wow, a little one went through here. This is really cool.
Dr. Matt did a book signing out of Green Bean at 2 o'clock this afternoon. And there was a guy that came in for the book signing. And Dr. J said, have you had a Bigfoot encounter? He says, oh, yeah. Over by Helm Bay, he and his son and 2 of the son's friends went to the beach because the dog in the skiff had alerted that there was something there. And this is the trees moving. He said the trees were moving violently, and then he heard the loudest scream he's ever heard. So the trees moving violently as a warning. The same thing happened to this guy, and I've known him for 40 years because I taught his son 40 years ago when I first moved here in 1982, 81.
So,
did you ever find any shelter where they would lay up?
We did find some, not that many with 4 years of boots on the ground, but we found a couple, and I'll talk about that when we get to the doctorate level as well. Yes?
This is more of just like a personal question, but like when you first had like that first sighting with your family, and then you were trying to navigate like your private practice and then also like pursuing this research.
Right.
Was there a time that like you were doing both, but then you were like, I'm just going to go towards this research and pursue this and still do practice, or like how was
I did my work, my psychology job full time, and I did the research pretty much full time. When you're in private practice and you're self-employed, you can take as much time off as you want. So during a big chunk of time as I was putting boots on the ground, with the support of my wife, Cynthia, I would, out of 12 months in a year, see clients for a total of 8 months, and I was off the other 4. Not in a row, just sporadically placed throughout the year. That was the benefit of being self-employed.
Yeah, another question.
Yeah.
What's the difference between Sasquatch here in the northwest and the skunk ape down south?
I'll talk about that. You guys are all starting to ask doctorate level questions. The semester has not started. I'm going to proceed. We're starting to ask questions. I'm going to proceed. So, kick on back. Get ready for your doctorate level education. And remember the King's Men. Boom. Okay? Boom. Some of you are going to be walking out of here like no head. Okay? Boom. Okay. Doctorate level degree. Here we go. Let the woo-woo begin. Okay? Dr. Woo. Okay? Hello, I'm Dr. Woo. Let the woo-woo begin, and that's my wife over there. Okay? First of all, in June of 2014, we brought Adam Davies and a friend of his, John Carlson, up to the Southern Oregon habituation area. They were coming up to bust me because I was reporting so much interactions and success with my habituation research that I was literally ticking off all the old schoolers who kept banging their head against a proverbial brick wall, doing the same thing over and over and over again without results. That's how you define insanity, by the way. Doing the same thing. Peter Byrne, insanity. Dr. Jeffrey Meldrum, insanity. Matt Moneymaker, insanity. Finding Bigfoot, Expedition Bigfoot, insanity. So, June 14th, they're coming over to bus me, okay? And we had 4 nights planned, right? So the first 2 nights, guess what? We're in the base camp, no lights policy. They didn't feel very comfortable about that, but okay. The first minute on the first night when we're in our chairs after we delivered the gifting bowls, right at the 11 o'clock position on the other side of the bushes. Oh! Exactly. That's exactly what Adam Davies did. He goes, holy crap, did you hear that? And the fun began. All night long, all around the whole perimeter, from 9 to 12 to 3 to 12 to 9. We had silhouettes, we had eye glow, we had vocals, and they were freaking out. Night number 3, I'm sitting in the chair. The fun begins again, but no, there's no Adam, there's no John. They're on the other side of the Suburban. They're scared to death. This guy who they came to bus has the action going on. They can't handle it anymore. You want the truth? You can't handle the truth. They're on the other side of the Suburban, all anxious, telling jokes, nervous laughter, smoking their backwoods cigars. They go for a little walk towards the 6 o'clock position on the perimeter down the logging road that we drove up to get there, and all of a sudden they're yelling, Matt, Matt, come here, Matt, Matt. And I'm a little miffed. I let you guys come here because I knew you were going to bust me. We got all this evidence going on, and you're back there. So I go, no, the action's here, our guests are here. You get up here. Matt, come here. No, come up here. Matt, come here now. So I get up out of my chair. I walk around the Suburban. I hang a left. And down at the 6 o'clock position on the logging road that we drive up on to get to base camp is a freaking portal. A portal. Did you hear me? Portal. Yeah. Stargate portal. How many of you have seen Stargate? Sci-fi. Portal. Portal. They're not dumb giant mountain apes. Portal. We look at this 12 to 15 foot portal and you can see a whole nother world. Red sky, scraggly dark vegetation, and then all of a sudden out through this portal come 2 3-foot tall Ewok hairy little Sasquatch guys with glowing red eyes, keeping us away from the portal. Now Adam and John are like, what is this, Matt? And I go, I don't know. I've been up here for 8 years. I've never seen that before. But truth be told, during those 8 years that I've been up there, sitting in my chair in base camp, facing the 12 o'clock position, and the trees occasionally at the top, 20, 30 feet off the ground, would light up for a minute. Not a minute, actually maybe 5 seconds, and then the light would go off. That would cause me to turn around and see who's driving up the road. There was no car. That happened numerous times. All of a sudden I realized why I was seeing those trees light up. Portal. They would shine the flashlight on this portal, it would close up. They would walk near the portal, it would open up. They would back away, shine a flashlight on the portal, it would close up. They would walk closer to the portal, it would open up. They were like little kids who discovered a garage door opener. Open, close, open, close, open, close. These 2 little guys were getting pissed. They charged them like, stay away from the portal. Oh, we're being attacked. We're all going to die. And I say, you know what? I'm going to bed. What? What do you mean you're going to bed? I drove you guys around all day while you napped in my car. I showed you the Oregon Caves, the Redwood Forest. I showed you Crater Lake. I was being a good host, driving you around all these tour sites during the day while you were sleeping in the car. I hadn't gotten any sleep. I'm going to bed because I'm driving you around tomorrow. So I left my 44 mag on the table by them, and I had the parabolic microphone dish recording all night long. So I have this recorded. I have it recorded. The event's recorded. Next morning I get up. We go and we get my little boy because I want him there. This is cool. My little boy had been out there with me with all this Bigfoot research stuff, but my little boy never saw a portal. So I wanted to bring my boy out there so he could see the portal. They thought I was the most irresponsible dad on the planet. How could you bring your 7-year-old boy out here? He's going to die with the rest of us. So we're back that night for night number 4. And Adam Davies has a squatch on the 8 o'clock position on the perimeter. And Adam Davies literally shushes the squatch that's making noise so he can do battle with the guardians of the portal. Think that one through. Does that sound crazy or what? But it really happened. Every bit of it really happened. I have it recorded. My 7-year-old boy pulls me aside. 7-year-old boy pulls me aside and says, "Daddy, they're acting like a bunch of scared little girls." My 7-year-old boy. Grady, come on, man. Cut them some slack. You and I have been up here for years. We know how it works up here. We know we're okay. We never died. This is their first time. Cut them some slack. Don't say that to them. Okay? 7-year-old. There's Adam. There's John. Oh. And if you don't play the audio within a certain time, your speaker conserves the battery and shuts off.
Me and John joked that if this was some sort of horror film or whatever else, that you'd be like saying, "It's way too weird."
Right. You know, like the truth is stranger than fiction, yeah.
It wasn't a hoax. It happened. All 3 of us saw it. There's no benefit to me to tell this story. There are reasons why John and I want to talk about it now, but there are no benefit. There's no, you know, we're not getting anything out of it. You're certainly not paying us. Do you know what I mean?
No. I'm glad you mentioned that because I'm definitely not.
I've been forced to talk about it because I've been had that much pressure about it that eventually I popped.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, Banal of America Audio with your host, Tim Banal.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of BOA Audio Season 9. I have a feeling this one is going to be quite the talked about edition of the program. I'm hearing that it's already got a lot of buzz in the Bigfoot community, which I'm not a part of, so I'm completely unfamiliar with this story, but apparently this story is major, it's pretty big, it's caused a lot of controversy, a lot of people are talking about it, and as luck would have it for Banal of America, one of the principal players in this big story is our old friend Adam Davies.
Okay, so I sat on that for a year, waiting for them to do their job, speak up, and tell the world what they saw. Because the requirement is, or was, if you went out with me to my research area, and you see something, you hear something, you feel something, you're gonna man up, you're gonna step up to the plate, and you're going to report the truth of what you experienced. They weren't willing to do it. I gave them a year. I was done. So I released the data at a conference. And boy, did that rock the Bigfoot world. I was a liar. I was a hoaxer. I was an attention whore. I was making stuff up. This isn't real. There's no such thing as portals, blah, blah, blah. And then finally, Adam and John go on this program and share with the world what happened. They did the right thing. You want to hear the full interview, go to Tim Bernald's program or go to soundcloud.com and type in Team Squatching USA. I have all kinds of audio recordings there, including the interviews. SoundCloud.com, Team Squatching USA. Okay? It really did happen. They're not dumb giant mountain apes. Everything you've been taught about Bigfoot is wrong. We had trolls bust SOA, Southern Oregon Habituation Area, at the end of December of 2015. One of the many people I brought up there, over 200 people by that time, threw me under the bus, gave up the coordinates, and they posted the coordinates online. So these trolls from California came up and took pictures of themselves drinking beer and pissing all over the area to kind of desecrate the whole area and to say, we found you. Well, the cool thing is, by this time, I'm getting to know the Bigfoot Forest people who refer to themselves worldwide as the Janu. We have different names for them all over the world. Okay, Kushtaka, Yeti, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Oma, the Grassman, the Skunk Ape, Yowie, Yeti, Urine, all over the place. They refer to themselves as the Janu. Okay? So we've made up our names for them. They're okay with that, but in reality, they're the Janu. That's their name for themselves. We're humans, they're Janu. They moved us to a new spot. So they moved us to a new spot, and by this time, a year later, I figured out how to reopen the portal. It took me a year, but by June of 2015, okay, I figured out how to reopen the portal, which was 6 months before these yahoos busted the place. And they were motivated to bust the place because I was publishing data about the fact that I figured out how to reopen the portal, and I had multiple witnesses with me every time. And I was using a scientific method. It took me a year to figure out, but essentially what it was we would go to the Oregon House of Mystery, which is a magnetic vortex, and we would come back with the residual energy on us that we didn't know we were carrying the residual energy, magnetic energy with us. And when we walked near the portal, it would open up. The residual magnetic energy on our bodies acted like a key to open up the portal. So then we did experiments. Half this group went swimming in the river. This half didn't. We'd send the guys who went in the river to open up the portal, nothing happened. We'd send the other group that didn't go swimming, they opened up the portal. We worked it out in different ways. We replicated it. You don't use science! You don't even know what I'm doing. You're just shooting off your mouth with false accusations. I most certainly did use science. I got 4 stinking college degrees. I'm a psychologist. Science. Don't tell me I wasn't using science. So, because I figured out how to reopen the portal, guess what? Onks, one of the Janu, when Cynthia and I were camping, woke me up at about 2 in the morning. I'm asleep on the cot, and he's kneeling down next to me on the cot with his hand on my shoulder, and he's mind speaking with me, telepathy. Whoa. He's not moving his mouth, but I'm hearing his voice. And he's telling me, you're the first human that figured out how to reopen a portal, and we need your help. We need a shunt. We need a shunt. And I said, you know, shunt wasn't in my vocabulary, to be honest. I said, do you mean a stent, you know, like a heart, keep the blood flowing, keep the veins open, a stent? No, a shunt. We need a shunt. Turns out a shunt is an electrical thing that keeps 2 ends open. Connects two ends electrically and keeps it open. We need a shunt. What do you mean? He said, he gave me the history. Here's a doctorate level education. He gave me the history that many, many moons ago, another species put portals all over the universe, long time ago, way before our existence. And they observed them because they can cloak. They can cloak. If you're in your doctorate level class, you're not on your phone, so the teacher confiscates. You got to pay attention, boys and girls. Huh?
Schedule for tomorrow's work.
Okay. So, he told me, okay, first of all, you need to know that they exist at a higher vibrational frequency than we do. Our human eyes can only see this much. We cannot see beyond this much. Their vibrational frequency, their higher vibrational frequency, takes them outside of the range that we can see. That's why dogs and cats can see them. They have different eyeballs than we do. If your dog is barking at something, or my little toy fox terrier is pointing something out that he sees and I can't see it, and I take pictures in the direction that he's pointing out and I get him in my pictures, guess what? They're there, I just can't see them. But my dogs can see them, the cats can see them, cameras can capture them. Yes?
And they can intentionally slow down their frequency so we can perceive them.
They can intentionally slow down their frequency so we can see them. And remember Patty, Bluff Creek, California, Patterson film? Okay, you see the Bigfoot walking away?
Show that with breast, please.
Yeah. Her name is Enrith. They nicknamed her Patty after Roger Patterson. Her name is Enrith. Enrith, the game plan was to slow down her vibrational frequency and meander away, getting filmed. So the game plan was to bring humans into the forest to hopefully interact with them. And the ones that didn't freak out and kept coming back, then the next goal was to get them to come across a portal. And if they didn't freak out and they kept coming back, then the next goal was to get them to figure out how to reopen the portal. And if they did and they didn't freak out, and I'm the one who crossed the finish line first, others were out there doing it but didn't cross the line, they came to me and said, we need a shunt. We need you to help keep both ends of the portal open, because what they figured out a long time ago was 25% of their population had the natural ability to manipulate the portals, go through by themselves. They couldn't take anyone else with them. And their sun was slowly starting to burn out. So their Council of 12 on their planet had a meeting and sent scouts out to other planets to find a planet that they could send their population to, their 25%. So the scouts came back. They're all connected. What one knows, they all know. What one feels, they all feel. So when these scouts came back, they're like a thumb drive. And the thumb drive downloads to the Council of 12 and all the other Janu, and immediately they have the information from the scouting. They go over the data and they decide that they want to send their population to Earth. They want to colonize the Earth. And this is long before us humans are walking on the planet. Okay? They came over during the end of our dinosaurs. 25% of their population came over. They could manipulate the portals and come over, which left 75% of their population back home. And again, they could not open the portal for anybody else. They could only go through themselves. And if you're still not getting it, there was a time when I was your age when I could dunk 2 balls at once. There was a time when I was your age I could do a 360. No problem. There was a time when I was your age I could get this high above the rim. I could dunk, you can't. I have the ability, you don't. That's what I'm talking about. We're all gifted in different ways. 25% of their population have the ability to manipulate portals. The other 75 didn't. If I were to try dunking today, I would end up in the emergency room. Just to be clear. So we have the Exodus, June of 2016. We're at a new area. These are just a small handful of all the witnesses I had going up with me during my research. You saw what I saw, heard what I heard, felt what I felt. So here's Mike Kincaid, that's me, and that's Steve Bachman. Steve Bachman put together this electromagnetic pulsating device. Okay? So after I have this talk with Onks, I understand timeline, I'm kind of jumping back and forth. But after I have this talk with Onks, or he has a talk with me, I'm on Coast to Coast AM. Well, this guy calls me up a couple days later, Robert Golka, retired MIT physicist. You can find him online. He's passed now, but you can find his work online, YouTube. He researched the rolling electric balls of lightning. Okay? So he heard me, and he contacted me, and he said, you know what? I've been studying the Bermuda Triangle for decades, and I believe there's a big portal there. And what you have described about the portal in SOA matches what I've learned about the portal in the Bermuda Triangle. But my portal's over the ocean. Your portal is on land. I would like to come to your portal. And I'm like, this is cool. You know, they're reaching out to me. They want a shunt, and now I have this retired MIT physicist. How awesome is that? Well, a week later, I'm talking to him, and he says, oh yeah, when I come out, let's kill one of those Bigfoot and bring the body back for science. Oh! I kicked him to the curb. Here goes the MIT physicist. You're not on my team, and I have to start over from scratch. Well, a week later, I get this email, and keep in mind, get a ton of phone calls and emails and Facebook PMs and text messages all the time. I get this email from Steve Bachman who says, I'm a YouTube researcher. I watch YouTube videos about Bigfoot. And there's only two guys I believe, you and some other guy in Florida, but you're closer. I know you don't know who I am. I work with my hands, I build houses, I refurbish tractors, and oh yeah, by the way, I attached a picture to the email. I made this electromagnetic pulsating device from Tesla's design. I'm going, there's somebody working behind the scenes here. I call him up immediately and said,